Hey all, here OS Reviews. Today we're taking a quick look at the AWEI Y680. This is a 60-watt Bluetooth speaker that has a pretty powerful subwoofer, should have some more added bass if you want some oomph when listening to your tracks, and also an interesting RGB visualization here on the front that can change different colors, adding just a little bit more of a dazzling effect as you're listening to music. So this particular unit sells for just a little north of $100, so it kind of sits in the middle. It's not quite as budget-oriented as some of the ultra cheap speakers that we've seen, but also not as high as some of the top-of-the-line brands such as Bang & Olufsen or Bose, for example, but we should also not expect necessarily the quality to be quite as high there when it comes to sound, but definitely when it comes to bass, as well as the, again, RGB effects, that is the main selling point of this model. Provides up to 6 hours of music listening. There are 3 speakers, aka drivers, inside. There's going to be a tweeter as well as 2 mid-woofers responsible for kind of the trebles as well as the bass and mids. The music comes out 360 degrees, so it's omnidirectional, and it is using a fairly up-to-date Bluetooth 5.0 chip, although codecs are standard, so it supports SBC and AAC, although hi-fi support via codecs like LDAC aren't going to be available, which is why, again, this model isn't necessarily geared towards audiophiles per se, but it's more about having, again, impressive bass as well as that visual effect. The speaker here also has a power bank mode, so if you are in an emergency, you can recharge your phone by plugging it in, and it weighs in around 6 pounds or so. So it's not the lightest unit in the world, although, again, you can see here it's kind of close to a table-size lamp in terms of dimensions, rated to be IPX5 splash and water resistant. You can also pair 2 speakers at the same time in a TWS mode, although only one is included in the box, so you can get some more stereo separation if you purchase multiple units. And in the box, aside from the speaker itself, we have just a standard USB Type-C charging cable, which is braided, and also a quick user guide. So a closer look at the speaker here, it does have a mesh covering on the bottom section. Reminds me of some designs from Google as well as Sonos. It's where the mids as well as trebles will come out from. And in terms of bass, you can see the subwoofer coverings on both ends of the speaker here, as well as on the bottom here, there's another section where even more bass will come out from. So it's going to be very kind of heavy when it comes to the impact of drum beats. There's also some soft touch rubber feet that prevents it from sliding around on a surface. Under a rubber flap on the back, you'll find the Type-C port for charging. There's also a micro SD card reader for playing back music directly, like on an MP3 player, without connecting it to anything. USB Type-A port for using it as a power bank for charging other devices, and also auxiliary 3.5mm jack if you want to use it as a wired speaker. And then located up top are these oversized controls for volume, which are super large and tactile. There's no way you can miss them. And there's also going to be a dedicated power key, lighting mode effect keys, as well as a pairing key, and cycling between the micro SD card mode as well as the Bluetooth mode key as well. So they're all pretty tactile and easy to use. The power button, by the way, can also be tapped once to play and pause music once you are connected with your device. So let's actually go ahead and turn it on. The RGB lights start to become activated underneath this acrylic plastic shell here on the top section, and it becomes quite dazzling even as it's not playing back music. And this is a RGB IC lamp, meaning that it's not just one consistent color, but rather it's continuously shifting different shades, including being a little bit more purple. Again, quite similar to a lava lamp can be visible in here. So it's a bit more dynamic and fun to look at. Adjusting some of the other lighting modes, you can tap once to go into this kind of sunset effect, which I do really like. It's a little bit more yellow towards the bottom, slightly more reddish at the top. This particular mode is also reactive to sound, so there is a microphone built on in, and depending on how you're tapping on these sides, as you can tell, it will also react and show just a splash of color. This one here is even more dazzling and rainbow-like. It will slowly shift through colors including greens, yellows, getting into more of a blue, and it will dynamically change through kind of the colors of the rainbow. But again, usually showing 2 colors or more at the same time as part of that effect to make it look a little bit more smooth. This one might actually be my favorite thus far, very calming. Tapping on it again, we'll go into more of a, again, single color mode where it will just shine once the different colors, igniting different spots, in fact, on the lamp before it then shifts into other colors. And then once more here into kind of a DJ party effect, where you can tell that the position of the lights are going to continuously shift. Sometimes they're a little higher towards the top, then now they're towards the middle section, so on and so forth. It kind of falls, then it goes all the way back up again. And then once again into more of a bluish color with some splashes of white along the edges. It's continuously moving in those different spots. And back into the original mode here, kind of the more purplish one that we saw from the beginning. So all of these really dynamic effects I do quite like, and I think makes it seem quite special compared to other Bluetooth speakers we've reviewed in the past. And also, last but not least, you can long hold on that key for a couple of seconds to turn it completely off if you want to listen to music without activating the lantern or LED effects. Let's do a quick demo of the music quality next. Turning the volume down there, takeaway being that the audio quality is actually quite impressive when it comes to indeed being very impactful in terms of bass. If you're listening to EDM or pop music in general, you'll be super satisfied, since it does add another level of immersiveness that almost rattles and kind of shakes the table that it's on with the vibrations that you can feel due to the heavy bass. You can kind of see the drivers even slightly shaking and moving in those instances. So the larger size subwoofers on this thing do make a difference, and if you are a bass head, you should be a fan of the overall sound. At the same time, it doesn't seem to be too out of control either. Rather, there was sufficient details in vocals and instrumentals for the mids and trebles also to be overall pretty impressive and immersive as you're listening to sound. Now, the claimed Bluetooth range of around 10 meters also seems to be quite accurate. I was able to walk around the room further away from this device and it was still playing back. There were no real hints of any static or hissing in the background either. As I'm playing and pausing the music, it seems responsive without too much popping sounds, for example. So overall, the quality of the Bluetooth chip that they've used here seems quite good. What I will say though is even though it is a 360-degree speaker, it is a little bit different compared to units that have maybe just one speaker located on the very top. Because on here, if you are positioning it with the logo facing you, you feel a little bit more separation between the two sides here. And as a result, it actually sounds a little bit more immersive in this particular spot compared to if you're turning it, it still sounds loud and full, but it kind of feels like you are wearing TWS wireless buds with one side, for example, the right side, being a little bit louder than the left side. And that's what I mean by if you are positioning it in the center spot, it seems to be the most well balanced in terms of sound coming from both of these two ends. Definitely a speaker that you can share with family and friends, have a party with, and everyone will be able to hear. I was only around 60% volume in this particular test, and it could already fill up this larger space without any problems. Much more powerful than any speaker from a phone or laptop can ever achieve for that regard. And maybe one feature though that would have been nice to see, considering that it is more of a portable speaker, would be some sort of handle design, especially since there is this lantern mode with that flame effect that you can apply, making it a little easier to hang somewhere or carry with. One thing I will say though is you don't necessarily get control over the brightness of the LED lights. So if you want to make it dimmer versus brighter, that's actually not something you can do on this model at the moment. Again, some small areas where maybe they could further add in a future revision. Last but not least, again, this model does not come with any companion app, which I don't think is really necessary for a wireless Bluetooth speaker at the end of the day. But since there are these unique LED lighting modes, then again, perhaps in another future revision, if they really wanted it, they could possibly add that as another feature, making it even easier to instantly jump back and forth between some of your favorite LED effects without cycling through that entire loop, customizing the lights even further to choosing your own favorite shade or creating some type of favorite playlist. Demo of the power bank functionality. It's not going to be necessarily as fast as a kind of Type-C to Type-C charger, as you can tell there, but it will still get the job done using kind of a standard 10-watt trickle charging speed, but still, again, giving you a little bit of power when in an emergency, since it has a giant, again, 12,000 milliamp hour capacity. So there we have it. That has been the AWEI Y680 wireless Bluetooth speaker. This model in particular really emphasizing super strong bass, but pleasantly it doesn't really distort or ruin the mids and trebles. They all still sound quite pleasant, and at the same time having a very clean, in fact quite beautiful looking acrylic shell with those fancy RGB lighting effects. Just a few small quirks that perhaps can be further expanded on in later revisions, but this is a very cool, again, first-gen LED type speaker attempt from AWEI. You can learn more details if interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thank you for watching here at OS Reviews.